Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I totally endorse the grievance debate put forward by our good governor, Sir Peter Ipatas, who has been speaking about, or who has been talking about this for some time. We are heartened that after the last governor's conference, we have some resolutions that we have given to the Prime Minister and the Minister for Department of Provincial and Local Level Government. We governors said we formed our own small secretariat to bring these resolutions so that rather than going through conferences where we sit and talk and we are preached to by presenters from various facets of government, we decided to condense all our resolutions and bring it forward. And the Prime Minister has given instructions that an effort must be undertaken to work on these resolutions, which include the issues that Governor Ipatas has raised and has been raising for some time, law and order, security, etc. The way forward is, from what I gather from that conference, a committee of sorts will be established. Well, we want that committee to be established as soon as possible, without delay. And that committee must then drive those resolutions so those resolutions become reality, or they can be debated, or fine-tuned, or whatever it is that we need to do to see them implemented, so that we can strengthen the provincial government systems that were weakened after '95. The '95 reforms, which are now 20 years old, and therefore they themselves need to be reformed or reviewed. To me, or in my opinion, that's where we went off the path, the development pathway of our nation. We were given a template by Australia. Follow this template. This is where we're going. The toolbox is here, your public sector. But in '95, for some absurd reason, we decided to veer off the development pathway. And we created these 95 reforms. And they weren't even piloted. You could have taken a district or in a province and you could have piloted it to see if it would work. Identify teething problems and issues, refine it, and then roll out such reforms. But they went across the board, across the country. And it's as if we veered off track into some very dark, unknown place. And then we dug a very big hole, and we jumped into that hole and we kept digging. And we continue to create a mess after another mess. We have to find our way back to the development pathway. If only we had followed the footsteps that had been left for us, the roadmap, I feel that we would be in a far better place today. If you go back to pre-1995, stations and districts were thriving. They were functioning mini-economies that were doing very well. The public servants went to work and they had their funds to be able to roll out their programs, whether it was agricultural extension programs, or rural health programs, law and order programs, whatever. They were rolling them out and the people were feeling the presence of government in these districts and stations. Fast forward to today, districts and stations are overcome with elephant grass. There's no law and order, there are no programs. Public servants are there, they get their fortnightly allowance, but what can they do with that? That's for them and their family. Revenues were centralized. The '95 reforms, strangely, were rolled out. One of the reasons was to decentralize, but in fact they centralized many things, many aspects of governance. We have to find out what happened in '95. Why were these reforms brought about? What was the intention of the government of the day? Was it the Look North policy? Was it to open our doors to our friends from the north? And by doing so, we actually allowed all types of investors to come into this country. Not just good investors with genuine intentions, but insidious characters who came here to plunder our resources, and they've been doing it very well. And they were some of the influencers of those reforms, if you did not know. That's right, for their own evil, selfish purposes. You don't have to colonize a country with an army. You can do so cleverly, covertly, with money. You can compromise systems, you can take over government departments and hijack them so that they no longer serve a people or their country, but instead they serve these organizations' interests. They can create syndicates, paralyze these organizations. They will then issue the licenses and permits at Waigani for their own benefit. And now they don't have a premier who is a watchdog over their province. And at that time, they convinced the governors because they said, "You blow by Kamlo Parliament, yeah. Olga the premier hamas nunggu through. Hai, mibla bakam lo parliament na. Tok lo line lo mibla na. And they just signed without thinking. They signed, they didn't read the fine print, which said many of your functions would actually be centralized. Revenue, for instance. Now, on the 21st of every month, we have to wait for IRC to give us our GST revenue. For example, we can't collect our own revenues. Those revenues were the lifeblood of these stations and districts. We have to go back, find out where we veered off track, get back on that pathway. That's what we are hoping to do. I echo the sentiments of Governor Ipatas. We have to go back. This is not a means by which we are attacking our open members. No, you are leaders. You need to serve our country. This is a means by which we have to take stock of our provinces, which are the pillars of this nation, and strengthen them so that you can focus on serving our country and thinking about beyond Papua New Guinea, the region, the world. What's happening in the future? How are we going to feature? Is it going to be our future? Well, right now I can tell you that the future where we have is not our future. There are very powerful forces here who have already designed their future. We are just mere spectators. We are going to be inconsequential. Our children will serve their children. They will funnel all our riches from our rich country offshore to build their empires, to make themselves rich. And we are just going to be helping them if we do not get back on that development pathway. They already control many of our government departments. Ministers, when you go and manage your government departments, trust me, you are just managing status quo. They have syndicates in there that will control you. They'll send you on overseas trips. They'll buy you 1 VX, 2 VX, whatever you want. They'll help you. They'll compromise you. And then you'll just continue managing status quo. Instead of running your ministry, carrying out the reforms and building a stronger ministry that is supposed to serve your country, they have hijacked those ministries. Those departments are now mercenary organizations. They don't serve Papua New Guinea or Papua New Guineans. They serve these insidious cartels. And they can change governments. And they do, and they have. You think it doesn't happen? Do some research, my friends. You'll find out that you don't run your country, nor do you own it. You only think you do. And therefore, we aren't independent. And we should be ashamed if we fly our flags on the 16th of September because we proclaim to be independent, but truly we're not. We would only be independent if we owned our economy, we controlled it, and we ran it for ourselves and our future. We have a huge responsibility here. We must not forget that. Our responsibility is to construct our future so our children can be in charge of that future. Lastly, Mr. Deputy Speaker, I want to debate on grievance debate. That's right. What happens to these great ideas, these amazing presentations that are made? There were some amazing presentations, ideas and thoughts that were presented here by my colleagues. What happens? We all go away feeling great. We said some great things, and our people encourage us. And social media goes crazy and says, look at this presentation by this guy or that person. He's a leader, I'm king, yeah. Vote me, come back. I'm sa tok-tok-lo, line blumi plana. Mouse blumi plana, I'm sa makin go through. But what happens to these ideas that we are presenting here? Who is responsible for taking these ideas and implementing them so that they become reality? Who's going to take Governor Ipatas' concerns and make it become reality, for instance? Or the member for Middle Ramu? Or Menyame, or Delta Fly, they presented some great ideas. What's going to happen to that? The danger is that nothing is going to happen to that. Then we have just wasted our time. We have just engaged in emotional rhetoric and made ourselves feel good, thinking that we have done something, but actually we've done nothing. So, Deputy Speaker, maybe it's your Parliament's responsibility. What happens in Parliament when we leave this office? What happens? Does it function? How does it capture all of this and then translate it into actionable items? And then who keeps track of that? Which minister is responsible? Are they going to do it? What parliamentary committee is responsible? Will they do it? And will we take action if they don't do it? Remind them? What's going to happen? How do we inform our people? Thank you, Deputy Speaker.